Ask you continue to lead us and guide us and bless us with the wisdom and knowledge and understanding we need to do what's right for the city of High Spring. So again, we ask all this in thy name. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America. And to
to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty
liberty
and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Mayor Williams,
Here.
Vice Mayor James is absent. Commissioner Jameson,
Here.
Commissioner Jones,
Here.
and Commissioner Lavin is also absent.
Seen on there. Okay. All righty. At this time, we entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussions? Any questions? And then all in favor, let me know by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Okay. At this time, I entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes for August the 13th, 2020 commission meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes of August 13th, 2020.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion or correction? Hearing that, all in favor, let me know by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Continuous business. Item number one, consider resolution 2020-G.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is resolution number 2020-G, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of High Springs, Florida, amending the purchasing policy and procedures of the City of High Springs, amending the competitive purchasing process, price thresholds, and approval requirements, repealing all resolutions and ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion would be to pass the resolution as read by title only.
So, any discussion or questions?
Well, I read through it and it really did change a lot, not necessarily the wording, but the layout of the document. I was going by paragraph so that I could see the changes, and the pages were changing. What happened? Rich, did you look these over?
Mr. Mayor, we have looked at the amended version to compare it to the notes from the meeting minutes from the last meeting, and I do think that there are some formatting changes in the document, but in terms of the changes, I don't know that there were a lot of substantive changes other than some of the cleanup work that I think was noted by a couple of commissioners in terms of the city manager being, in charge of making the financial decisions and that sort of thing. There is language that we will still need to put into the retention discussion, and that's on page 4, subsection D, just in terms of the document retention policies shall be in compliance with the Florida Public Records laws of Chapter 119. But we did not, the local preference language is not included in there. We can discuss that tonight. I alluded to it in the last meeting. I don't know if we want to discuss that further this evening, but it's not in this particular amended version of this.
Okay. what she's talking about. Go ahead, Lynn. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. I noticed that the payments invoices now are supposed to be electronic rather than checks. Is that
Yes,
correct?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, what we're trying to do is move in the 21st century and try to bring it more of a convenient way of making payments. And that was one of the ways, I think that's something that we would look into. Is that what is the wishes of the board, but we want to make sure that we also have that alternative to make payments other than by check. So is that your wishes?
Well, I guess my question would be, the mayor normally signs the checks along with the city manager, gives us an opportunity to look at the backup paperwork. Is this going to be easily accomplished? I mean, that's one of our checks and balances, I believe.
Again, Mr. Mayor, there should be attachments to any invoice or any payment that is requested by the vendors. And it's just something that we want to just give you an idea of which direction we want to move the city in for the future. That's basically what is, we want to make sure you have that option as well.
Let me add and maybe clarify, because I see where Linda's coming from on the deal. The paperwork that the mayor would sign, the manager would sign, that paperwork I'm assuming is staying the same, but then the actual check that's going is going electronically. Paper check is not being written, but all the other documents leading up to that would remain the same, correct?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay,
So, I mean, in that regard, I think that's where Linda was coming from as far as the checks with the mayor and them doing it type of deal. So
thank you, Scott.
I would say this, if on the deal, and I appreciate Linda, if Linda's prepared to make her motion again, and I think we've got it, I'll second it for discussion so we can move on.
Okay, I will move that we approve. Excuse me just a second. Shoot. I don't have it in front of me. Why don't you make the motion, Scott? I'll second it because I can't find my original. Oh, there it is. I move that we approve Resolution 2020-G as read by title.
Commissioner Jones, I would just recommend that the motion be amended to include the public records language in page 4. We would make that an additional sentence on page 4, but otherwise as read by title.
Okay. I'll add that.
Well said. I'll second the motion with the revised language included.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Yes, sir, you have some questions, Mr. Jameson?
No, I'm good. I on this one here, like I told you, I went back, I looked at it, I thought about it on the deal, and the competitive bid process is exactly what it is. It's a competitive bid process. And I just, being a competitor my whole life in sports and everything, it should be an even playing field in this case here. So believe me, I went back and thought about it, but I'm okay with it. Everybody knows when they put forth their bid, they are putting forth a bid what they think is the best that they can do. And I think that's what we need to stay with. So I'm good with it and ready to go.
Right, sir. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none. Mr. Jenna?
Mayor Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Jameson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Okay, motion approved. All right, unfinished business. Consider ordinance 2020-07.
Mr. Mayor, we would like to go back on that last matter just for a moment. We want to make sure that we allow an opportunity for public comment.
I'm sorry.
Uh,
So remind me, Linda.
And since we're virtual, Mr. Mayor, if anybody desires to make public comment that's participating, then if they'll push the raise your hand function on the Zoom proceedings so that Jenny Parham, our clerk, can recognize you. And if you wish to be heard, if you'll do that. The other way to do it is on the video screen. The old school way of doing it is just waving your hand. That's another way of doing it, but a better procedure would be so that Jenny can see it if you'll raise your hand function. The other item, Mr. Mayor, when we go through the call for the vote, if we can do the roll call, even though it was just simply a resolution, that way Jenny can take down the minutes, each of the votes. Since we're virtual, I don't believe there was anybody that voted against the last measure, but if we do that, I think it helps the procedure.
I can barely hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm speaking it sideways into the mic. Is that better?
Yes, that's much better.
Oh, okay. Mr. Mayor, I was just saying that if anybody wants to push the raise your hand function, if there's any citizens that want to speak on any measure, that's what would help Ms. Jenny recognize them. And then since we're on virtual, to have everybody in all our votes to do a roll call vote, even though that it was just simply a resolution.
Okay. So anyone want to speak on the item we just discussed? Resolution 2020-G, and anyone from the public?
Mr. Mayor, there's no hands raised at this time.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So we'll move on to unfinished business. Item number 1, consider ordinance 2020-07.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And this is our second reading of this ordinance, and this is a quasi judicial procedure. I'll read the ordinance in and then we can go through our process. Ordinance number 2020-07, an ordinance of the City of High Springs, Florida, amending the official zoning map of the City of High Springs Land Development Code as amended, relating to the rezoning of 10 or more contiguous acres of land pursuant to an application Z 20-01 by the property owners of said acreage, providing for rezoning from IND industrial to R1 residential of certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of High Springs, Florida, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion would be to pass the reading of the ordinance as read by title only. And with that said, the first thing I would ask is, are there any commissioners who have had any ex parte communications with anyone regarding this matter?
No.
No.
Okay. And then I would ask that anybody who is here, members of the public, staff, the applicant, anybody who's here tonight to speak on this issue and potentially offer evidence or testimony on it, we will swear you in at this time. It's hard for me to see as far as the members of the public, but again, here I would recommend that you use the raise hand function that Mr. Walker was just mentioning, or raise your hand the old fashioned way. And with that, I can swear everyone in.
Mr. Mayor, we'll need participants to use the raise their hand function unless they're moved over to the panel. We can't see their video. As they raise their hand, I will move them over so that we can see them in the panel. They can't turn their video on.
Anyone want to speak on this issue?
Do we have Christy Atkins here? Okay, we have Mr. Lee. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'm moving Ms. Atkins over now.
Okay, so I think we have two speakers between Mr. Lee and Ms. Atkins on behalf of the staff of the city. So Mr. Lee and Ms. Atkins, if you could raise your right hand.
You need to unmute. There you go. Okay, good.
Do
Okay,
you hereby swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Okay, you are both duly sworn. And at this time, we will first have city staff just give us a brief overview, and then we will hear from the applicant if the applicant would like to speak on this matter tonight.
Okay, so I'm going to quickly share my screen here with the map so you all can see it. This is the area in question, this parcel and the one below it. It's going from IND to C3. So there is C3 to the north of it. So it's not spot zoning, it's all good. A long time ago, this was actually gone through the process of being rezoned, was approved, but due to a clerical error on our end was never formally sent away to be processed officially. So they have already gone through this process once before, were approved. It was just never recorded properly. So if there's, I don't know if you guys need any other information, but if you have any questions, I'm here to answer those.
Well, thank you, Ms. Atkins. Actually, before we get into any questions that the commissioners may have, let's give the applicant an opportunity to speak. Mr. Lee, would you like to say any words tonight?
Cousin Kevin.
He might.
It looks like he's still muted. You are.
There you go. You muted again. You're still muted. Mr. Lee. Unmute yourself there.
Am I on now?
Nah.
There you are.
Excuse me. I basically said that I don't think I have anything to add unless you have any questions of me. I'd be happy to clarify or answer anything if you need my additional comments.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Lee?
No, I mean, nothing's changed from 2 weeks ago when we had the initial.
Okay, and then with that, if there are any questions that the commissioners have for the staff, then this would be the appropriate time.
I have none.
Okay.
Have none.
And so just to remind the commission, we're governed by the substantial and competent evidence standard. So at this point, the commission can entertain some discussion and potentially a motion.
Well, if there's no discussion and no questions, do we have questions? I move that we approve ordinance 2020-07 as read by title.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. Any citizens' comments? No citizen.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
just real quick, I just want to make the comment on the deal. I mean, at times I'm hesitant when there's only 3 and the other 2 aren't here, but this was a 5-0 vote. This was a 5-0 vote on the last time. So I'm comfortable with them not being here because it was a unanimous last time. So I just wanted to note that. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Okay.
Mr. Lee, I will tell you, you and your wife did a great job of raising your boy. You got a great son in Adam. He's one of our colleagues. He's a local lawyer, and we run across Adam pretty frequently. And I just wanted to give you that.
Well, I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Most of it came from his mother.
Okay. No one else? Jenny?
Mr. Mayor, I want to clarify, 07 is Hinkson. That's the property located below Florida Woodlands or Woodland. Is that Mr. Lee's property also?
No, so it's a separate project, but it is directly below them. So Hingston is right next to Woodland 3's rezoning.
09 is Mr. Lee's project.
That's the next item on the agenda.
Oh,
That's
so
the
did we
one
get them
that was never
backwards?
recorded. Yes.
Oh, goodness, sorry.
I was a little confused myself.
Well,
Yes.
I can just show you real quick on my screen share the one that I guess I should have showed you. So
Well-
it's the parcel just directly below it, same sort of thing, except this one's turning into residential instead.
So just to be clear, though, the motion on the table should be limited to ordinance 2020-07, and we'll handle 09 as a separate matter. We've probably covered a lot of the territory already. I don't know if Mr. Lee will want to speak in that hearing, but the motion on the table would be with respect to 07.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure somebody's out there, we're aware that it's 07 and where it is. We're not, at least I'm not voting thinking it was the other one.
Right.
So I just want to make sure, so we're not sitting there going, we're not thinking it's 09. So I just wanted to make sure people were aware of that.
Is anyone from that parcel there, Kevin? Although I know we talked about it the last time.
Mr. Mayor, if anyone would like to be brought onto the panel, we ask that they please use their raise their hand function. I can move them over. I'm seeing no hands raised, Mr. Mayor.
We have a motion on ordinance 2020-07. Am I correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Okay, Jenny?
Commissioner Jameson,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. Okay, motion carries. All right, now we consider ordinance 2020-09.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and we continue to be in our quasi judicial process and hearing. This is ordinance number 2020-09, an ordinance of the City of High Springs, Florida, amending the official zoning map of the City of High Springs Land Development Code as amended, relating to the rezoning of 10 or more contiguous acres of land pursuant to an application Z 20-03 by the property owner of said acreage, providing for rezoning from IND industrial to C3 commercial of certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of High Springs, Florida, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. This is our second reading of this ordinance, so the appropriate motion would be to pass the ordinance as read by title only. And I will again ask the commissioners, is there anyone who has had any ex parte communications with anyone regarding this particular matter?
No.
No.
Okay. And do we have any new witnesses to swear in other than Ms. Atkins and Mr. Lee? Since they've been sworn in, that will apply to this proceeding as well. But are there any other people in the public or elsewhere who intend to speak on this matter? If so, please use the raise your hand function or raise your hand if you're visible to us right now, but we will need to swear you in.
Mr. Mayor, there's no.
All right, thank you. And with that, Ms. Atkins, if you could provide us with just a brief overview from the staff's perspective as far as this application.
Sure. Okay. So this one is Hingston, I believe, right? Correct?
No,
Woodland.
No? Oh,
Woodland-
okay. So this is the
Woodland.
Woodland one. So the one that I already went over where
Right.
it's located here. Two different parcels, rezoning from industrial to C3. As far as planning goes, no issues on our end for that.
Thank you, Ms. Atkins. Mr. Lee, anything further that you would like to add at this point?
Nothing to add unless you have any questions of me. Thank you.
Okay. And with that, I'll open it up to the commission to ask any questions that they may have of the applicant or staff at this time.
I have none.
No, and I would basically just preface the same statement I said before. The others aren't here. It was a 5-0 vote last time, so I'm comfortable with it. Just the three of us doing this, having the other two also vote. So I'm good.
And with that, I'll remind the commission that we're governed again by the substantial and competent evidence standard. And at this time, the commission could entertain a motion and engage in some discussions on that.
What did you just say?
Should we make a motion now?
A motion can be entertained at this time.
Okay, well, you do that substantive type stuff in there.
You are governed by the substantial and competent evidence standard with respect to any motion that is put on the floor.
I don't know what that means.
Okay, I'm just curious because that has never been prefaced before any
No.
time we ever did a motion. So that's the reason you caught my interest, because we've never heard that before until just then. So I wanted to make sure, you know.
That is the standard in a quasi judicial proceeding, and it applies always, whether you hear the city attorney say it or not. That is the legal standard that the commission must consider. They must look at the evidence, the testimony, the presentation from the witnesses, and determine whether this meets the criteria and has met that threshold. That is the legal threshold we're governed by.
I have no issue with that. It was just, that was interjected.
I have not heard it either.
We hadn't heard it, so that was just a new. I understand the legalities type of stuff, so I'm good. I'm motion pass 2020-09 on second reading.
Second.
Yeah, motion in a second. Rich being an attorney tonight, so it's, you guys attorney hat on tonight.
I'm not sure I heard that last comment.
I see you have your attorney hat on tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
And thank you. We've got a motion in a second, so we can entertain any commissioner discussion on this.
I have none.
Any citizens want to speak on
Mr. Mayor, we'll ask that anyone who wishes to speak to please use the raise their hand function and we'll bring them out. And I see no hands at this time, Mr. Mayor.
We have a motion in a second. Ms. Jenny?
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Mayor Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Jameson,
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. At this time, citizen request.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. At this time, citizen requesting comments for issues not on the agenda. Please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 5 minutes, please. Anyone there, Kevin?
And Mr. Mayor, again, if anyone would like to speak, we ask that they please use the raise your hand function. And I see no hands, Mr. Mayor.
All right, move on to new business. Review and consider approval for the proposed advertisement for the city manager.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
before we review that, I would like to inform you and the board that tendering my resignation letter effective November 3rd, November 30th, 2020. It's been a great opportunity to work with the city almost for the past 5 years, I think. And when I initially moved in this position, I said, we'll look at it 1 year. I've learned a lot. I appreciate the opportunity to serve the citizens as well as the board and work with the employees. I think it's time now to for another set of eyes to take the city to another level. I think I fulfilled the obligations of 1 year. Back to the Bible, biblical said Ecclesiastics, and it's a time and a season for everything. And now I think my season is up. It's always a pleasure and an honor and willing to serve as always. With that said, I tendered a letter. I don't know if you were able to read it, yet review it, but it's bittersweet. As you get older, you start looking at things differently, and I just enjoy my tenure here, and I will still be available to the board and you, Mr. Mayor, and the citizens. It's always hard for me to say goodbye, but I enjoyed everything. It's just wonderful. So bittersweet, but there's a time in life you have to plant, and sometimes you got to pluck it up. So I guess I'm being plucked up. And God bless you and bless the community of High Springs.
Commission like to say anything at this time?
Yes, I would, Mr. Mayor. We have certainly appreciated our new city manager. Well, he's not new, but he helped us out tremendously. We had a rough time last end of August, September, where things kind of fell apart. So he was able to help get us through this year, and we appreciate that greatly. And we hope his new venture in life will be satisfying for him. And you're not really saying goodbye. I mean, you're still going to be around.
I'll just real quick, Mr. Mayor, and this one here, probably the most difficult times for a new city manager to come in, or anybody in an administrative deal to come in, with the COVID thing being what it was. So I just simply want to tell Joel, thank you for guiding us through these times up to this point, and I wish him the very best going forward.
So, I also want to say thank you also. It's been nice working with you for the last several years, especially for the last year. I guess time flies when you have fun, I guess they say, huh?
Yes, sir.
You know, I want to echo what Commissioner Jones said. We're not going to say goodbye, because you're always welcome back to the city of High Springs. I'm quite sure there's going to be time for you need to come to some of our meetings or whatever.
Absolutely.
And so you're always welcome. You don't have to be a stranger. But again, I want to say thank you for all that you did for us, and pray that you're the best for you in your new opportunity that you're endeavoring.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
All right. Anyone from staff?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, sir.
It's been an honor and joy having Manager DeCourcy come over. If you recollect, he came in 2016 to the police department when we definitely needed him, and he did not, I don't think, need the money or headache. But like I said during my swearing in, he's been the gift that just keep on giving, and he's going to another role, and he will continue to give in that aspect. But you know, I'm grateful for him for coming along and assisting us. He certainly did not have to. He has been very professional in our agency and pushed us to the next agency, and he has done the same thing for the city. So we can't give him enough thanks and gratitude for what he's done. And I hope I can only just be a quarter of what he has been, because when my days are over, I'm out. So, but we've been very appreciative. And like I told someone the other day, I said, I'm sad to see him leave, but I'm happy for him as well. We can't hold on to people forever. We're here for seasons, and we have to recognize that. But from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I still call him Chief. Thank you.
Joel, we've certainly enjoyed working with you from a legal standpoint, and you've been just a real class act. Obviously, a leader. It just comes to you very naturally, and we appreciated our time working together. Sheriff's Office, of course, does a lot of interactions with the smaller cities in Alachua County, and you're moving into the position you're going to be moving into is going to be actually another tremendous benefit, not only to yourself as you close out your career in a very major fashion, excuse the pun, but also it's going to be really beneficial to the cities, because the city's needs, what our goals and objectives are, and it's just going to be a real pleasure to work with you in your new position as well. So thank you.
Okay. So at this time we review and consider approval for the city manager advertisement. That's all you had a chance to look over it.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
this is basically the same advertisement that we did last year.
Mhm.
Just need the commission's approval, or if they want any amendments to it, any changes, just let me know.
I
I
don't
have the
see any
timeline.
changes.
Okay,
What's that, Commissioner?
there's the timeline on the third page.
Right.
If we rush it, and that's rushing it pretty much for this timeline, so we can try it.
Well, I'm all for, I have no issues with the advertisement and the compensation and things like that. The timeline, we need to rush it. And I appreciate you, Jenny, expediting and getting the dates in there. At some point in time, we're gonna have to meet down the road and figure out, because we're gonna have a month to 2 months where he's gonna be gone. And the position will be empty. Because if your interviews on October 27th, it's gonna take us a week to 10 days to get together. So you're into November. So I'm just saying, I think that's just something we need to make sure we keep in mind as we get closer, start thinking about what do we do for November, December, worst sort of case scenario. What are our plans for November, December? Because if it's the holidays, somebody may not want to get here until the first of the year. So I think that's an important factor that we need to consider down the road here a little bit on how we're going to do that. The dates I'm good with, the compensation and things like that. For me personally, I'm fine.
I agree. I don't have any problems with the advertisement at all.
And then in most cases, when you hire someone, they, at least want 30 days before they.
In this type of position, yes, sir, it's usually at least 30 days. And then if they have to move, you might have to grant them more time, but like Commissioner Jameson said, with the holidays and everything, you're probably looking at somebody not wanting to start until first of the year, after January.
That's a different issue on the thing, how we go about that. I see you thinking there, Mr. Mayor. I think that's something we're gonna have to, we're gonna have to give some deep thought on how do we fill that void. I think for 2 months, but that's a different issue.
Okay. All right, any other discussion?
Does there have to be a vote on this, Jenny, or just a consensus?
Probably just vote on it would be good.
Well, I move that we approve the advertisement for the city manager for the city of High Springs.
Second.
A motion and a second, any other discussion? And now, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
This goes out tomorrow, Jenny?
Yes, sir.
The advertisement, and where will it go, Jenny? Just real quick, where will it go?
The first place will be Florida League of Cities. And
Okay.
they can come back to our website to read the full description.
Right. Okay, thank you.
All righty. Okay, at this time, number 2, establish alternate dates for September, November, and December, city commissioner meeting.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, in your packets, you should have the calendar. We do this every year, changing the dates for the holidays. And in September, we change it because we have to hold the second budget hearing on a Monday. So we just changed the second meeting in September to be on that Monday.
Right.
Yeah.
On the 21st.
Yes, sir.
Woo, what time?
6:30, right?
Yes, sir. All meetings are 6:30 unless otherwise stated.
Yeah. I have classes on Monday nights. I'll see what I can do. I'll let Ms. Rucker know. I'm gonna get an unexcused absence. Take points from me. Okay, we'll work something out with for that.
Let me ask you a question, Jenny, on this one here with the dates. Is there some way to get a verbal type communication with the two that aren't here to get their thoughts before we do it? Does it have to be done now? I mean, if we were to say yes, could you get with them and just see? Because I mean, we're changing the dates. I'm just.
Just the dates of the meeting. Yes, sir. We could do that. And then if they have a problem with it, we could bring it back on the next meeting and change the dates then.
That wouldn't affect, I mean, we would be within the schedule and everything. We'd be okay time wise. I'd like to at least let the other two offer in some, I mean, if you can talk to them by phone or something and they say, yeah, I'm good with it. I just would like to get their input before we arbitrarily just do it. I mean, I know we do it every year. We change the dates.
Right.
I could do that. We still have time to change it.
And so if the three of us were to do it now, I mean, if they were to call them and say yes, or if they had strong, then we'd be okay.
Yes, sir. I could change it next meeting.
Okay. That's what I'd like to do for me personally.
Okay.
I'm for it. I'm for the changes. We've been doing it for 8.5 years now. So, I mean, I'm for it. I just would like to make sure they have an opportunity to voice an opinion.
I'll contact them.
Okay, thank you.
So do we need a motion on this?
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to accept the change in the calendar dates, but also with sort of a little caveat in there that Jenny contacts the other two just to get their input. So that's my motion.
Oh, a second. Sorry.
And discussion. All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. All right. Consider approval of a purchase of a parts warehouse storage shed for the amount of $5,850.
Mr. Mayor.
Public Works? Who is for Public Works?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, just passed the threshold for my approval, so it'd be for the board. It's something that's essential for our equipment and for the building and road department and the, I guess, the water, sewage, streets, and cemetery. It's gonna be utilized for storage of equipment, and we need the space because the equipment that we purchase is out in the weather, so it kind of depreciate at a more rapid rate by being out in the weather. So this is essential for the upkeep of the property that we purchased for the different departments.
Yeah. Where y'all gonna be placing this one at? Who's going at?
Over behind the where the building and streets the streets and roads building is now, the trailers near the police department, the old school.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions, commissioners?
None.
I guess I'll ask my standard question. Obviously, this was not funded at the beginning of the process, so where's the money coming from?
So, as the city manager said, this is an essential thing. It is mostly for the water parts. There is a little issue with the storage unit they're using now. I think there's a little bit of mold in it. So there is contingency of $12,145 in the water department, and that will be used to purchase it. And we really don't, in all honesty, there really isn't a choice about this because it's getting to be a hazard.
I get it, but let me just be consistent with my deal. If it's that of an urgent need, why wasn't it put into the budget? If it's that urgent, why wasn't it listed as an itemized issue in a capital outlay or something? I mean, it can't be that essential if it wasn't put in the budget.
I think it's been coming, and I think this last year has just gotten really bad. I'm sorry that Rodney or David aren't here to expand on.
Things happen and it could get bad.
It's gotten really bad this year, and it's getting to be a safety hazard.
I don't argue that.
Mr. Mayor, we've been piecemealing and trying to be good stewards of the finance, and a lot of times the employees won't complain about warrants and needs to try to be team players, and that's something that they've been doing for years. So it's come to a head now. We have to do something about it. I understand your concern, Ms. Mayor.
Let me be clear. I'm not questioning that it's needed, and I'm not questioning that it's essential. What I'm questioning is if it's that essential, why wouldn't it put into the budget for this year, for the 2021? That's all I'm saying. If it's that essential, why isn't it in the budget? And now we're taking out a contingency. That doesn't, to me, I wouldn't work my family budget like that. I wouldn't have my roof falling apart and then all of a sudden not budget for it and then basically tell me it's been pretty bad for a long time, but I just didn't put the money in. And I hate to be that way, but I'm trying to be consistent with what I've done since I've been on here. I'd say find the money. I wouldn't go into contingency right away.
And maybe this is a water fund, which is a standalone fund. So more than likely, I'm looking at it, there is the money's there from the operating, and I can use it.
I would prefer that it come out of money that has been budgeted and not go into contingency if it can be done. If it can be done.
Yes, sir.
With that said, I'll make a motion to go ahead and buy it with an emphasis on it coming out of operating funds and use of contingency as a last resort.
Can I just say one thing? That can't come out of operating because it is over the 5,000. It will come out of capital outlay as a fixed asset.
Okay. My bad. So I will just avoid it to say out of capital outlay.
I'll second.
Now we got a motion and a second, now discussion. All right, hearing none, all in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
And all approve, same sign. Disapprove. Okay, motion carries. All right, at this time, city attorney reports and updates.
Mr. Mayor, we don't have anything to report this evening. Thank you.
All right, city manager.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, just to update on the positions that it's going to be vacant and we need to fill. It's Mr. David Benton is leaving the 11th of next month, and he's a superintendent over streets and facilities in the cemetery. We want to advertise that position, and Rodney Hoffman, over the superintendent of water and sewer. He's retiring the 6/31/21 of next year. Of course, my position is being advertised as city manager. We have a building official coming on board in the 14th of next month. Just to give you an update on through attrition, a lot of folks are moving on for one reason or the other, and the city is going to get a lot of new faces. And we're putting it out there, and we're going to try to get some folks in here that's going to take it to the next level. Just to give you an update on the status of our employees.
Mr. DeCoursey, when is David's job, or Jenny, either one of you, when is that going to be posted? David Benton's job.
I don't believe his job is going to be posted. I believe the Public Works Director job will be posted. And it's possible that somebody, the foreman, will fill in for David's position until someone's hired.
And when's the foreman's job going to be posted then?
That only maybe, we haven't discussed that yet on how we're going to handle that after we get a Public Works Director. So it may not be filled. We're just waiting to see how that works.
Okay.
That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Jameson, you have anything?
No, I would just, once again, I appreciate it. We asked for the update on the deal. I know there's talk about the Public Works and maybe combining in there. I would sort of like a continuous update on where we're at and how we're going to do these positions, because I know we're playing like a little, we're doing, and not, this is not derogatory at all. We're doing a little chess game as far as trying to figure out the best way to fill the building position that was at in Public Works, David's, and then the impending retirement of Rodney. I just like to make sure we're kept up to speed on it, because we're in a pretty major time here with water and sewer and the street stuff, that we need to make sure that we have people in place to make sure, as you said, going forward, we're good to go. So if you would just keep us informed as to the process, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes. Excuse me. The Launchwood Today paper has a very good article. Well, it has several good articles in it. One of them, the county review charter. I was a little bit involved with that. And Newberry is going to oppose the county's proposed charter amendment for the, let me get it right here. In opposite, okay, for, let's see if I can get it here, I'm sorry. If on the annexation, they want to maintain control over the property even after it's annexed. And we need to let our citizens know about it. I think we need to let the commission know about it, so that perhaps we need to support Newberry in their opposition. That will kind of take local control away from us if the county is able to maintain that property even after it's annexed. So I would like for staff to take a look at that and perhaps prepare something to see if the commissioners would be interested in passing a resolution themselves. And that's it.
Mr. Mayor, our office has prepared a resolution. Actually, we did that on Monday, and it was added to the agenda Monday evening in the Newberry Commission meeting. And if the commission desires here in High Springs, we can have that same type of resolution available for consideration at the next meeting.
I would like for that. to happen, I would. And if that meets with approval by the city manager or whoever needs to approve it, for the attorneys to prepare that.
We can send a draft of it over to Mr. DeCoursey and follow up with a phone call to him to discuss it and go from there, if that works.
Okay, it does for me.
So noted, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am. Somebody said something?
I just said, so noted, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, sir. That it, Commissioner?
That's
Jones?
it.
All righty. I have some resolutions here that was passed by the Florida Legal Mills. I will get this to Jenny, and you can distribute copies to the rest of the commissioners. Get a chance. And again, I'm going to call you Chief DeCoursey, City Manager DeCoursey. Again, we just want to say thank you and wish you the best of luck. And as Scott said, you're going to be a benefit for us in the sheriff office because you know the city of High Springs, you know the operation. I think you might know the chief.
Sure.
So again, we say thank you so much. And if there's nothing else, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, meeting adjourned.